Hey friends, happy Friday to you. Hope you had a great one today. Hope you did something again that pushed yourself a little bit farther than you did yesterday. Today is Fix It Friday. Hope you've had a great one. And as promised, so much in store for you today, including the 4 story structures that I found most applicable in a business setting. Now, why are story structures important? Well, I go back to my time in the market research world doing creative there. And let's say we had a 7 question survey that went out. Well, a junior researcher would quite often come back with a PowerPoint, and those 7 questions would be in order on PowerPoint slides. And that's interesting. It's a good way to get the information out quickly, but maybe not the best way to tell that story. So we might want to reorder that, add some structure to it to put the most interesting parts in the most interesting places and take the audience on a journey. And so this is why story structures are so important. So let's go through it. The 4 story structures I found most effective: in medias res, journalistic headline, spark lines, and hero's journey, which you may be familiar with. Let's start with in medias res. That literally means start in the middle. And the best way to do that is with some sort of exciting piece of information. You'll see this in TV a lot or in movies a lot. They'll start with a car chase or some sort of exciting action and then back you up a few days earlier or a few weeks earlier. Well, in business, we can start with an exciting piece of information or an exciting detail that might have been unexpected, and then back up to the methodology, and then find out how we got to that point, and then examine what do we do with this information now that we have it. So that's the business sense of using in medias res. The next one is a journalistic headline, and that pulls directly from journalism. If you read a great article, most of the information, in fact, all of the information that you really need to know should be in the first few sentences or that first paragraph. This comes from the print news philosophy where column inches are important. So if there's a late breaking story, all the editor has to do with your story is cut the end, and all of the pertinent information will still be there while making room for the new story. Sparklines is a story structure that comes from Nancy Duarte. She is brilliant. Look her up. And it alternates between what is and what could be. Great examples include Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Not judged by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. Another example is Steve Jobs when he first rolled out the iPhone. He gave the current state of the phone market and says, well, what if a phone could do this? And he goes back and addresses each of the individual sort of grievances of the phone market and says, well, what if a phone could do this? And at the end, he says, everything that sounds like a dream, I'm giving you today with the iPhone. And the final one you've probably heard is the hero's journey. That is sometimes represented in a linear fashion, like I have it here. It's also represented in a circular fashion, which I'm less of a fan of, because in a circle version, you wind up essentially back where you are. So unless that is the actual story of your characters, I like taking them on a journey and leaving them in a different place from where they started. In a business setting, an awareness to purchase study is a great hero's journey. So let's say we have somebody in your consumer base who loves getting deals by email. Well, then you're going to want to engage them with an email campaign. Then you know that 2/3 of your audience will research the product or sale online. So you're going to want to keep your website current, keep your social media current. And finally, you know that people like to try the thing out in the store before buying. So you're going to want to make sure you have that available in the retail stores for people to go and physically touch it before they buy it. So that's a quick example of how awareness to purchase can be a little more engaging when it's done as a hero's journey. Now, I also promised that I would go through some slides and talk about how I break down slide visuals. Well, here we have an initial slide, and I made up all of this information. This is all about AI and the adoption of AI. And then the most important thing on any slide where I go to first is the title. And this one says, adoption rate for AI is growing at a faster rate than crypto and NFTs. And that is going to be our thesis, our one idea that we are going to focus on for this slide. Hopefully, when you make slides, you have one idea per slide. It's very important. Now, we're going to set up the world here. We're going to talk about crypto adoption, NFT adoption, and AI adoption. That gives people a nice setting and start there. Now, everything below this AI adoption net, the 6%, the 3%, the 1%, that's nice to know, but those percentages are not very tangible. So we're going to take that same information, but we're going to use the million numbers that we've provided. So the 25 million AI users, the 14 million, 7 million, 1 million, that's a little more tangible for somebody. So instead of saying it's X number of miles, you say it's twice the size of Texas. And that makes it a relatable statistic. Finally, the chart in the lower right, this is the most important visual representation of the growth rate of all three items that we are talking about. Now, as we put the slide together, I will again start with setting up the world, the 79%, 50%, 11%, and then we're going to break down AI adoption. First, the 25 million users, and then we're going to break down AI art, AI text, and ChatGPT. Finally, we're going to have a whole new page just for the adoption rates, because I think that is critical. And especially when you're presenting to a large conference, you don't want to have a small chart for something so important. You want to make a big deal out of it. So that's one way I would visualize this slide. I think there are a bunch of other ways this could be done depending on the audience and what's most meaningful. Hope this was helpful for you. I'd love to hear from you on how I might be able to help you improve the look and the storytelling of your slides. Hope you had a fantastic Fix It Friday, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.